the third no-hitter in postseason history. And the reason I say the third in postseason history is because some 12 years ago, a no-hitter was thrown by Roy Halladay on this very mound against the Reds. The manager of that Reds team, Dusty Baker. Dusty Baker, the manager of the Astros, and he gets a no-hitter from four of his guys, starting with Christian Javier, who was incredible.
Yeah, we saw history tonight with Christian Javier. You want to talk about domination. It was all about his fastball and slider. He threw his fastball 10% more than he normally does. And what was special about it was the horizontal life at the top of the strike zone. The hitters were just swinging under it. And when you want to think about this for a minute, Akeem, I want you to think about this for a minute. JT Realmuto, Bryce Harper, Nick Castellanos, and Bohm, okay, Alec Bohm, they're 3, 4, 5, 6 hitters, were combined 0 for 12 with 11 strikeouts and 1 walk. That's how dominant he was. And let's give a lot of credit to Christian Vasquez, the catcher, who was catching his first game of the World Series, and he was putting down all the right fingers the entire night. He was able to read what was working, and he went exactly to the straights of Javier. He absolutely dominated.
And this isn't the first time that Christian Javier has thrown a combined no-hitter or been a part of one. He threw one back in June against the Yankees, and that was Hector Neris and Ryan Presley. Ryan Presley finishes this one off. Rafael Montero, Brian Abreu are in this game as well. Four pitchers rather, all in this game to throw the combined no-hitter. The slider is what Rob Thompson said was what kept them off balance. He said really the fact that Christian Javier was able to throw the slider for a strike, that's what kept our guys off balance all night long.
But the fastball is what was thrown right by the hitters that were special. But then when Abreu came in, he just punched out the side 1, 2, 3. He hasn't given up a run this postseason, the whole postseason. And then you talked about Presley closing the game. Presley hasn't given up a run the entire postseason. And what you saw tonight was dominant. You know, yesterday we saw the Phillies take a 2-1 lead, and they pounded 5 homers, and they won 7-0. And what you saw tonight, the opposite. Houston came out. They had a big 5-run 5th inning, and it was just a tremendous amount of great hitting. But it was the clutch double by Alex Bregman on a 101-mile-an-hour fastball on the outside part of the plate. He drove it to right field, and that was the big hit in the game and really the turning point.
Yeah, and Jim, you want to talk about usually there's some sort of defensive play in a no-hitter or a combined no-hitter. Maybe the Gene Segura line out to right maybe was a great play by Kyle Tucker, but there really wasn't anything. There was the foul ball down the line by Kyle Schwarber, but there wasn't anything defensively. It was a lot of swings and misses from Christian Javier, Brian Abreu, Rafael Montero, and Ryan Presley.
Well, in the first 5 innings of this game by Javier, 9 strikeouts, right? And 6 flyouts and no groundouts. 0, right? Then he goes into the 6th inning, his final inning of work, and what happened? Ground out, ground out, ground out. Walked off the field. And then the bullpen, Abreu punches out the side, and then Montero gets him 1, 2, 3, and then Presley finishes the job of the ninth. We saw history tonight here at Citizens Bank Park in Philadelphia. You want to talk about special. This is a game you'll remember forever. Only the second no-hitter in World Series history, and the first one happened even before you were born.
1956, Don Larson. Yankees went on to win that World Series.
They did.
So perhaps some foreshadowing for the Astros.
Well, and when we look forward now, what do the Astros have? Justin Verlander will pitch tomorrow.
He's thrown 3 no-hitters in his career.
He has, and so he's gonna pitch Game 5. He's also going to win the Cy Young Award when the season's over. And then when they go back to Houston, which is now guaranteed, Framber Valdez will take the mound in Game 6, who just dominated this lineup. So this series has a long way to go. We're tied at 2. It's been a roller coaster up and down, and I can't wait till tomorrow to find out if we go up or down.
I am really right now at this moment at a loss for words, because we just saw something that's only been done 3 times in postseason history. 3 times, and this was the 3rd time. And Christian Javier, the story, this guy was signed as an international free agent. This was a guy that wasn't a starter when the season started. He earned a spot in the rotation, and then he electrifies a World Series game and starts a game that shuts down a Phillies lineup that just hit 5 home runs in the game before.
And we talked about this before the game in our pregame show, and we said Javier has the best stuff of anybody in this Astros pitching staff. That includes Verlander, that includes Valdez, and you saw what we were talking about tonight. because that fastball and that slider were nasty. He only threw 2 curveballs the entire game. Why? He didn't have to throw anything out. But you see that fastball right there in the video? 96 up. Look at the light, how it just stays up. And there's the slider right there to Harper. And by the way, he threw the fastball by Harper as well. Just a dominant performance.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. And here's what I will say. So this is not the first time that the Phillies have been no-hit this season. They had a no-hitter tossed against them in April against the Mets.
And guess who the starting pitcher was in that game?
Tyler McGill.
Thank you.
Yeah, but also, do you know what happened the next day?
And by the way, Nola pitched in that game as well.
But do you know what happened the next day?
He pitched today.
Yeah, he did. You know what happened the next day?
What happened the next day?
The Phillies won the next day. They beat the Mets the next day.
Are you saying that's foreshadowing for tomorrow?
Is
that a harbinger of future events?
It could be, but we could see Justin Verlander sort of like exercise the demons, right? He's never won a World Series start.
Well, what's going to be interesting on the other side for the Phillies is Noah Syndergaard, because tomorrow we're not going to expect him to go more than 2 or 3 innings. And then you're going to have a bullpen day. One of the things we saw in this game from the Phillies' perspective, when they brought in Jose Alvarado to face Alvarez and Tucker as the game plan, we saw a pitcher that hadn't thrown in 4 days. And this is a guy that averages 4 walks per 9 innings, so his issue has always been command and control. A reliever that relies on that has to pitch often. He sat 4 days. He came in, and what happened? Bases loaded. He hit Alvarez. That was the first run of this World Series game. Why? Command and control problem. And then he just missed on Bregman, the location of that 101-mile fastball out over the plate. So that's why later in the game you saw Thompson, and people were wondering, well, why did he bring Eflin in?
Yeah.
Better get him an inning of work to prepare for tomorrow so that he can be sharp.
Can you give me just a little pinch here? Right? Yeah, okay. That just happened. That just happened.
It did.
That was real.
Yeah,
that was real.
That was real.
The Astros.
Did that hurt, by the way?
No, it was okay. I'm all right. I remember I'm a former catcher. I can take a little beating. All right. So the Astros hand the Phillies their first postseason loss at home. And now we are headed back to Houston for sure. So we'll see you back in Texas.
And
this is the best of 3 now.
And Houston now has home field advantage.
It
How
does.
quickly that changes.
All right. Game 5 here in Philadelphia on Thursday. Noah Syndergaard against Justin Verlander, who, as we mentioned, has tossed 3 no-hitters in his career, but he's got to exercise his demons because he's been awful in the World Series. But on this night, the Houston Astros were awesome. No-hit stuff in Philadelphia.
No question about it. The Phillies, a team that averaged 7 runs a game in the postseason. Not only not a run, not a hit on this night. No hitters in Major League postseason history. You can count them on one hand. 2 no-nos in World Series history. The last one by Don Larson way back in 1956. Not only, as David said, it was important, obviously, that's why you pitched Abreu, Montero, and Presley to get the win. Not only was it a huge win, but it was a historical win for the Stros as well. Series square, 2 games apiece. Their skipper, Dusty Baker, whose right-hander, 25-year-old Christian Javier, spun a gem.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.